I'm actually really nervous to record this video just because I feel like disliking this book is a crime. Hello everyone, it's Nina, and today I'm here to talk about Queen of Air and Darkness by Cassandra Clare. I am nervous about this just because I'm gonna give you a heads up. I didn't love this book, and I feel like everyone else on the planet, except for a couple people, simply adored it. So yeah, I hope I don't get hate for this review, even though I'm not even relevant, but let's start with the non-spoilery part. So I have so many thoughts on this book that I had trouble rating it. I ended up giving it 3 stars, but I think I was actually kind of generous. I don't really feel, I have so much trouble describing what I felt for this book because I didn't like the majority of it, but there were some moments and some aspects and some parts of it that I loved, so I don't know. I gave it 3 stars, but I think I'm closer to a 2.5 maybe. I don't know, I just have a lot of trouble describing what I feel for this book. I'm not sure about how I feel. Overall, I just thought that everything was too forced, I think, for me. I really wanted to love this book, and it just made me incredibly frustrated as I read it because I didn't like most of the characters' attitudes, especially in the beginning after the events of Lord of Shadows, and I don't know, it just didn't please me, and nothing really impressed me in this book. It was just kind of meh. It was really frustrating because this book put me in a slump. I was reading this, it took me 2 weeks to read this, and I was reading Great Expectations by Charles Dickens, which I'm still reading at the same time, and both books just weren't pleasing me that much, so I just got in a lump because of a book. And yeah, I think that's all of the non-spoilery things that I can say, because I have a lot of thoughts on this book. I actually had to write down what I thought so I could remember everything that I had to say in this video, but for the non-spoilery part, all that I have to say is that this book disappointed me. I expected something more, but I think the writing also let me down, the characters let me down, and basically everything just let me down. I think a lot of the plot points and devices in this book were just ridiculous. Like, sometimes the characters would do certain things and I'd be like, why? A lot of it just felt ridiculous to me, and in the end, I did love a few things, but for the most part, I didn't like this book. Okay, so now I'm gonna start getting into the spoilers, and I will try to say what I thought in a chronological order, like according to what happens in the book in a chronological order, but my mind is such a mess right now that I don't know if I will be able to do this very coherently, so I apologize if I don't make a lot of sense or if I'm saying things out of order and if things might seem random, but let's get into the review. First off, I want to say that this book frustrated me so much that at one point I was reading it in my bed, and I think it was the part where Julian and Emma are in Thule, if that's how you pronounce the name of that parallel universe or world or whatever. And one of my cats was lying next to me in bed, and she actually bit off a corner of a page, and I wasn't even mad. Actually, I kind of thought it was funny because one part of me was like, dude, that's your book. You paid for this book, and she's like damaging the book. But another part of me just thought it was kind of funny and kind of cute, and in the end, I was mad about it. Roll the clip. Okay, so I was reading the book, normally reading the book, and then noticed Chihiro made a brisk movement, and she actually tore the corner of the page away, just like she did with the page of Siege and Storm when I was reading it. Oh my god. I don't know if I should be mad or if I just kind of find it funny. Thankfully, she didn't damage writing and she didn't take out any words, but I'd already read this part anyways, but still. Why does she only do this to books that I don't like? Are you trying to tell me something? Huh? Are you trying to tell me that you don't like these books either? Are you trying to tell me that they're bad? Oh my god, I'm not even mad. It's just kind of funny. Here's the culprit. Do you have anything to say for yourself? Okay, so yeah, Chihiro bit off a piece of my book and I wasn't even mad. So I'm gonna start going through my notes to see what I felt when I read this book. So the first thing that I wrote down here is that it really bothered me how the characters acted in the beginning of the book. I felt like I was grieving Livy's death more than they were. Except maybe the younger Blackthorns like Drew and Ty in his own way. I don't know, I just got really mad because it seems like all the older characters like Emma and Julian and Mark and Christina only wanted to know about sex. Like, honestly, Julian, your sister just fucking died in your arms and you just wanna have sex? You know, that just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I thought that they would be a bit more devastated than they were. I think I expected more, especially since I felt Livy's death so hard. I really liked her. I did not want her to die. And it just really bothered me, like that scene when Emma is washing Julian, they're having like a shower together and then they nearly had sex. Why? And then Julian has this amazing discovery, like this groundbreaking realization that he can feel grief for Livy and love for Emma at the same time. Psychologists like all over the world are shook at this discovery. You can feel two things at the same time. Who knew? But saltiness aside, I just expected him to feel a little bit more broken on the inside and not to just want to go and have sex with Emma. And I also did not get why the heck Magnus agreed to perform the spell on Julian if he knew that things would probably go wrong. And appealing to the memory of Will coming to Magnus did nothing for me. It didn't move me, it didn't make me emotional, and didn't make me understand Julian a bit more. I just thought it was kind of useless. It did nothing for me, and actually I got a little bit offended that she compared Will to Julian, because here's the thing, I have never liked Emma and Julian. I don't really like them as individuals and I don't really like them as a couple. I just don't understand why Magnus would do that, especially since he was already weak and kind of dying, so why? Like, even Mark and Christina nearly having sex annoyed me, and they were like my favorite character of the series. But it just didn't feel like the right time, you know? If they wanted to have sex further along in the story, like maybe a month after Livy had died, or maybe a couple weeks at least, would have been fine, I get it. But it was just a few days, you know? She just died in a horrible way. Why do you want to have sex all the time? There was a moment that I loved, and I think it shows from the post-its that I put on this book. Like, this one says Gem with a lot of hearts in it, and I don't think the lighting here is so bad, but it says Gem and has a lot of hearts in it. And then Gem tells Emma that Tessa is pregnant, and I put a post-it that says, I am screaming, because that's what I did. I literally screamed because I was so happy. I love Jessa. I'm so glad they're finally having a baby. It's gonna be the best. Another point that really annoyed me was that I get that the younger Blackthorns were grieving for Livy, but they were being total assholes to Helen, and she just wanted to be their sister. I get it that she's been exiled for years, but she's been exiled for years, and it's not her fault, and all she wants to is, you know, take care of her siblings and get to know them, and they were just pushing her away like she was nothing, and she was trying her best. And I really felt for Helen throughout this book. I really loved her character in this. I also loved her character in Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy. I really liked her and Aline as a couple. They were one of my favorite couples in this book. And I also really liked Aline throughout the book, except for that scene when she throws the lamp. I thought that was really unnecessary and out of character. But overall, I really loved their relationship. I loved how Aline was always standing up for Helen and, you know, trying to take the lead and trying to coordinate the Institute, and even though things were basically utter chaos. And I'm actually interested in reading more about them in the future, seeing how they're gonna live in the Institute, if they really will have a baby. And I just really loved both of them. It seems to me that they had a really healthy relationship. I love how supportive of each other they are, and like the small gestures that they make. They're not the kind of couple that shows their love or affection or whatever by having sex all the time, and that really pleased me. I loved when Simon gave Julian a Dungeons and Dragons iron figurine to fight the fairies. I just love Simon with all of my heart, and I kind of miss his presence and Izzy's in this book. I feel like maybe because Simon had an entire book for himself, he didn't really show up in this book. He had that moment with Julian and Emma, and then he was just mentioned in a few parts of the book. And I missed him because I love Simon so much. He's one of my favorite characters from the Shadowhunter Chronicles, and Izzy as well. I love her, I love her, I love her, and I love them as a couple. But since we got to see a lot of them in Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy, I think maybe Cassandra just didn't want to put them too much in this book. I don't know. I kind of miss them, but I understand why they didn't have a bigger role in Queen of Air and Darkness. Another thing that I didn't understand was when Emma was trying to get to the Unseelie Tower and she was going through the Hedge of Thorns, and Cortana just sent her a sword? I just don't really get it. Does Cortana have a will of her own? Is she a living being? How could she just send another sword to Emma from another dimension? That didn't make sense to me. I actually wrote down that the only part when I liked Julian was when he was sassy to Jace when they were in Fairy. I already wasn't a big fan of Julian, and then when he turned emotionless, he was insufferable, and I actually felt for Emma. Even though I don't care for her a lot, she loved him, and he was being such an ass. Like, I know he had no feelings, but he was just so annoying. I could not stand him. But anyways, I really loved this part when the two couples, Jason Clary and Emma and Julian, were prisoners in Fairy, and it goes like this. "We can't wait any longer," Jace said. "We have to get out of here." And then Julian says, "I'm guessing that wishing to get out of here hasn't worked so far since you're still imprisoned." I loved that part, honestly. Just because Jace is annoying, and then Julian just went like in your face. I really like that. I felt like the whole Thule plot, like the other world plot, was too forced, and in the end it was just there so we could get a little bit more of Livy, and so in the end we could have a continuation to the series because Jace from the other world ended up coming back to our world, and he went to the Seelie Queen with Ash being like, "Hey, let's go destroy all Shadowhunters, let's kill Clary, let's do whatever." So I felt like the only Thule thing was there so Cassandra could continue the story, and I'm not sure how I feel about that. The whole Thule thing itself felt a little bit forced to me. I did not like it at all, and I still don't know how I feel about the other Livy. I wasn't really happy to see Livy again because I knew she wasn't the same Livy. Just like Ty kind of knew she wasn't his Livy. And I have this thing when I read a book. I have this belief that if you don't want your character to stay dead, then don't kill them in the first place. I related to Emma for the first time when she was in Thule and she said, "And please don't say all the cats are dead," said Emma. "I'm not sure I can cope with feline death on a massive scale." If you know me, you know that I freaking love cats, and I also wouldn't be able to cope with that. So I relate to Emma. But overall, something else that frustrated me about this whole Thule arc was that Cassandra kind of recycled Sebastian as a villain for a little while there, but she didn't explore his character further, which is something that I would have liked to seen in the Mortal Instruments, and didn't happen. So to me, it just kind of fell flat. It didn't do anything. And yeah, I didn't like it. I did feel sad about what happened to some of the characters in Thule, like the whole thing with Magnus and Alec dying. That was heavy and sad. I kept wondering all the time because Cassandra said what happened to basically all of the main characters of the TMI series in Thule, but she didn't say anything about Simon. And I don't remember the Battle of the Buren, if that's how you pronounce it, but I'm pretty sure that Simon was there, or he had some part to play, and she just didn't say what happened to him, and I was curious. I want to be like, what about Simon? What about my baby Simon? And one of the things that most annoyed me from this whole Thule thing was that since Julian and Emma's paratire runes weren't working, they just wanted to jump at each other all the time, and no, that just wasn't for me. I don't like them as a couple. I didn't have patience to read all the, near sex and sex scenes that happened. I did not care for them at all. Even if Julian had feelings again, I just didn't care. I loved seeing Raphael again. I missed him so much. He was one of my favorite characters from the Mortal Instruments. I wish he was still alive. And when he told Emma and Julian to say to Magnus and Alec to change his child's name, I was just like, oh, the name is perfect. I love Raphael. I miss him. But yeah, that's one of the few things that I liked from the whole Thule thing. Also, Church is the best character in this trilogy and possibly in this whole Shadowhunter world. When that final battle in Thule happened, I just got confused about a lot of things, like why were the Mortal Instruments just lying on a table in the Silent City for anyone to get them? Like, I get that the Silent City was sealed, but Sebastian was getting closer to opening the doors, and then the sword and the cup were just there on a table for the taking. Also, why did Tessa burst into flames after she sealed the Silent City? Also, why did Ash just sprout wings all of a sudden? I get that he's powerful and he's part fairy, but he didn't have wings and then suddenly in a blink of an eye he has like a pair of 2 black wings. Why? Also, what happened to the black volume? I mean, I wanted to reread this part actually when Julian kills Annabelle to see if it actually says what happened to the black volume, but I didn't have the time before filming this video. And now I'm just curious. Like, my friend actually pointed this out to me because she's reading Queen of Air and Darkness as well, and she's also not enjoying it very much, so we keep discussing it. But in the end, it says that the black volume no longer exists, but what happened to it, really? Furthermore, when Julian and Emma came back from Thule, I just was already a bit frustrated with this book. I thought it was so ridiculous what Julian did to his arm. I thought it was way too angsty and emo and unnecessary. I also related to Emma when she ate 3 donut sandwiches, because that's something I would do. I loved the moment when Kieran took Drew's advice to heart and when he was like flipping through the cat calendar and loving it. I just love that scene so much. And him saying that she's wise. I really like Drew, so I really like that moment. About the final battle, it just didn't do anything for me. At that point, I had kind of given up on this book, and I was so frustrated that I mainly didn't care anymore. So when Emma nearly died, and then she and Julian turned into freaking giants, I was like, it didn't impress me. It didn't move me. I will admit that when the Blackthorns and friends came to Julian and Emma to try and save them and bring them back to their natural state, I did get a little bit teary-eyed, and that's because I really love the Blackthorns, except for Julian, and I just thought it was a cute moment. I'm all about family stuff, so that was nice. But overall, it just really felt flat for me. When Julian and Emma turned into giants, I was like, is this going to turn into Attack on Titan and they will start eating everyone? Because that would be interesting. But that's not what happened. Yeah, I was glad that Horace Dearborn died because he was a pain in the ass. I wish Zara had died because even though I didn't hate her like many people did, she also was a pain in the ass. And I'm not sure how I feel about the whole cohort exiling everyone else from Alicante thing. I didn't love it, but I also didn't hate it, so I don't know where I stand. I guess I'll have to wait and see. And I was a bit confused about the whole Nephilim explanation that James gave. It didn't make a lot of sense to me. I don't get why the parabatite bond between Emma and Julian was broken just because they turned into freaking giants. That just felt confusing to me. At the end of the book, first of all, Malik getting married was everything. I love both of them with my whole heart, and their marriage was absolutely beautiful. It's all I wanted, and it was so beautiful. Actually made me want to cry, but I didn't, but I wanted to. I don't know, I just love Alec and Magnus so much. I really like the fact that Alec got voted the new consul. I get a little bit skeptical because I think he's really young still, but I think he's gonna do a great job. He's amazing, and Magnus is amazing, and I love both of them so much, which is why I'm excited for the Red Scrolls of Magic, since it's gonna focus on the 2 of them. I really loved the fact that Kit went to live with Jem and Tessa because I love Jem and Tessa so much with all my heart, and I really like Kit as well. He's just snarky and sarcastic and funny, like his POV is funny, so I'm excited for that. I also really loved the friendship that Ty and Drew developed at the end. I just think it was so sweet, and Drew's finally happy that she gets to be more with Ty and that he trusts her, and it was so sweet. I'm not sure how I feel about Livy's ghost, and furthermore, just wanted to say a few of my overall thoughts. First one is that everything kind of felt too forced for me. So many things were just too much or downright ridiculous. That's why I didn't end up loving this book. I also don't understand why the book is called Queen of Air and Darkness and why Annabelle is on the cover. I don't think she deserved none of those. Her participation is kind of minimal and she's not really that important to the story. I don't know, I just don't think she deserved neither the title nor the cover of the book. This book ended and everything, you know, ended well, and I still don't like Julia and Emma as a couple, but I don't think that's ever gonna change. And finally, the last thing that I want to talk about that bothered me was how the Mexican characters, like, randomly spoke stuff in Spanish. Like, I get it, they speak Spanish, that's their first language, and probably the language that they're most comfortable speaking. But all of the Hispanic characters in this book can speak fluent English. And most of the time, when they just let out a word in Spanish, they were talking to someone who didn't speak Spanish. They were talking to someone who spoke English. So it didn't really make sense to me why Diego was thinking about velas instead of candles, because I'm pretty sure that vela means candle in Spanish, or why Christina said hada instead of fairy, since she knows the word for fairy. Just because I don't think this is something that people do. Like, imagine if on my reviews I started mixing Portuguese with English all the time, considering that I know how to speak English. So I would be saying like, oh, I didn't like this livro because I felt it was too forzado, and I didn't like the way the personagens were acting. It sounds weird. It's not something I would do, and I just think it's not something normal people would do. So this also felt way too forced for me. I'm sure there are some other things that I would like to say, but this video is already too long as it is, and I feel like I exposed the main points that bothered me or the main points that I loved. So I'm gonna end this video right here. Do you want to close up the video? You're so cute. Do you want to end the video? Alright everyone, thank you for watching this sort of rant-ish review. I hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you next time. Bye!